to put the auditors first, so that they can.
Well, I spoke to Lorelei, and you said you were not going to speak, am I correct, or?
That's correct. We were going to reserve that for another, for probably the next meeting, after we have our questions and comments. That's
Okay.
my understanding.
So then, I think we can have a second. Denise,
I
take a
did.
second. All those in favor of adopting the agenda? All right, unanimous. The disposition of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second the motion.
Your motion.
So you
gotta say
that. I was just gonna say. So don't get in the route.
You second?
So,
All those in favor?
are the minutes subject to audit then?
I think everything in here is subject to audit.
Okay, then,
Okay, I make the motion to approve the minutes subject to audit.
Why would the minutes? No, the
I don't know.
Would they not be?
No, finance don't need,
Finance.
Alright, fair enough.
no, they don't.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll just shut up over here.
The August minutes.
Till I'm asked.
A second, do we have a second?
I second.
Donna?
On a second, all in favor? Opposed, abstentions? Okay, Casey wasn't here, so he's abstaining. And I got everything on my iPad and I forgot to bring it, isn't that wonderful?
I think that's the first time our minutes passed without.
Without
a change.
Yes, very good. Well, you got them out in a good manner and people were good about responding.
It's
It
just
makes
we're
all
moving
the
forward.
difference.
We're moving forward.
My bag in the car.
Communications, do we have any communications?
Not really, just a card, they're in your packets.
Okay, so, we can go ahead. Public comment is next.
What's the communication?
Public comment is limited to 3 minutes.
there's a card.
And yes,
Just wanted to tell everybody that the Hudson Opera Theater in their 40th year of operation is putting on the ballet score of Romeo and Juliet this weekend at the Presbyterian Church around the corner. It's Saturday, the 16th at 7 p.m. and Sunday, the 17th at 4 p.m. And notwithstanding the cost that's listed on any of the flyers you may have seen, the director, Ron DeFazzi, announced yesterday that everyone's invited and it will just be a goodwill donation.
Wow.
that's very
That's
nice.
really
Very
nice.
nice.
So he's trying to encourage.
The community.
Is it advanced RSVP or just first come, first served?
Thank you very much, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Next we have the director's report. If there is no more public comment.
Okay. We decided to do something a little different for Artist of the Month. Those of us who have different odd, interesting artistic talents all contributed to the board. So our names are with it. So if you want to see what we do here on our spare time, go take a look. I want to, y'all know I emailed you about the solar eclipse program, but I have to tell you, I've been here 33 years and I've never seen anything like it in my life. The energy, the people coming and going, people from whatever, wherever, sharing in the experience. I think that was the thing I liked most of all. It was a very diverse audience with, adults, children, every race, creed, and color. It's an amazing day. And like Diane Barone, like I said, Diane Barone was kind of on her own. Melissa was on vacation, Joy is on a hiatus, and Gia came at 2:00 and it started at 1. I had sent her out for extra food. We were scrambling. We had every chair we owned out there and in here. They went through the food like locusts. It was just an amazing afternoon. It truly was. So you never know. At first we thought, maybe 30 people will come.
There must have been 200 people here.
Absolutely.
It was so packed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you were here.
Yeah,
Am
I
I
was here.
right? Wasn't it kind of
Yeah.
like crazy?
It was great. You know, you go outside and there's this one woman standing there. She's like, "You want to look here?" You know, and she just kept on shoving the glasses in your face every time you went outside.
That was the best part, seeing people look up and with their surprise. I just took a pair of glasses down to the swimming pool where everybody was hanging out. I didn't want to be by myself. And it was the same thing. Everybody was
Yes.
grabbing them, looking up and,
Yes,
oh.
'cause all you could see was the
I
sun.
know. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful. Yes. Like I said, I dated myself. It was a happening. Okay, I'll move on. I handed in the petitions, and everybody is hypersensitive to the fact that they have to be in on time. They're going to be voting on them Monday night at the board meeting, town board meeting, and this year I am going to that meeting. I'm sure, but I'm not. There's not going to be a problem, but I'm going. We hired a new bookkeeper. She seems very nice, very focused. She is also a bookkeeper for the Stony Point Library, so she's not only familiar with bookkeeping, but also library bookkeeping. She's very nice. She's going to be coming in on Friday to get acclimated and, you know, work on things like her W-9 and her hours and things like that. She'll be meeting you, and of course, when Stephen Hofer comes, she'll be ready for that.
And if you'd like to go on Friday,
Oh, really?
depending on what time.
Two.
If I'm not.
Okay. And by the way, JetBlue was honored because they were giving flights for $99 out of Florida,
Yeah, that's,
and they were the first to do that. So I thought of you.
yeah.
They were the only ones that didn't really.
Yeah, somebody went.
Yeah.
were
I think
really
American
gouging.
Airlines ended up doing $99.
Did they?
Also,
Yeah.
JetBlue
Led the way.
led the
Yeah.
way.
No, a lot of other
Shame
airlines, not what, a lot of other airlines stepped up and started doing the right thing.
Yeah.
after.
Right, yeah, that was good.
Mhm.
That's why our motto is bringing humanity back to the airlines.
Yeah, yeah, good for you.
And we appreciate it.
Good job.
It was very smooth.
Broke the third wall, or the fourth wall.
And I did email you, and everybody knows, and it's in your packet, both the letter from Robert Hupsher stating that Tricia Shanley is trustee of the year. Yes. My letter. What?
She get free coffee for that?
She has to take out
we
two
get
libraries at a time.
$250.
And no
The thing
fines.
is, at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'll need the free coffee.
I'm sure.
So as I know a lot of you work and can't get there, but if you could, oh good, okay, that'd be great, and some staff are going to. So that's wonderful.
Thank you, Marilyn,
You're
for
very welcome,
nominating
you're
me.
very welcome, that's well
appreciate it.
deserved. I did finally get in touch with Alan Zuckerman after calling back. He really made an attempt to call back and forth, we were just not. And he did talk to Best Mechanical, and he did his best. They don't feel that they did anything that was extraordinarily bad, and it's not an extraordinarily bad situation, and we aren't going to get anything from them. He did his best to try, Alan did, but it's been 2.5 years, and I think we're on our own with the roof, unless the board decides to take other action, but
Okay,
that's...
duly noted.
Yes. And I did send the last piece for the Larkin grant. Everything else was fine, so, and this letter was fine. So, I'm hoping we get a check soon. If we don't, and they check our document vault, which is out of compliance, all I have to do is upload the extension. I'm just gonna upload our extension, and then that should get us the money.
Great.
But the wheels of the state move
Yes.
very slowly. Any questions for me on any of these? Sure.
What did we have to use it for? What was the restriction?
The restriction was, well, it wasn't a restriction.
No, I don't mean a restriction, I don't know
Yes.
the right word.
The,
What we
what designated for was the children's
Earmarked.
help, yeah, it was earmarked, that's a good word. It was earmarked for the circulation desk and the children's help desk, which, as you know, have already been paid for. They had to be paid for.
Right, but the last time when that happened with the other grants, if I'm not mistaken, we put it towards the mortgage because that was where it it was all based on the new building.
That is not my understanding.
No, but I'm just saying, that's what we did with the HVAC, we did that with the windows
I think we
went
got
towards
those in a
that,
timely
and the building
fashion.
one did, so I
Those
don't
we
know.
got in a timely fashion that kind of matched the thing we were buying, But with this grant, and
Are you
and
allowed
this-
to just
and that
do it
was a
anyway?
state construction grant that you're talking about.
No, but I'm saying, are we allowed to just change what we do?
Well, it's not that we're changing, we've already paid for the circulation.
Alright, I don't know, I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yes.
It's not because that's how long it took us to get this
3
process.
years.
It's about 2
Uh-huh.
years.
So,
Over
yeah,
almost 3 years,
so we're basically just paying ourselves back what we took out of our own kitty.
Yeah.
right.
Is basically what we're
It
doing.
came out of capital.
Right, right.
So we would just
So
put
I'm
this
just
money back
wondering if
in.
it's
Well,
going back
actually,
into capital.
we didn't
Yeah,
have
go
enough,
back into capital.
actually, we didn't have enough in capital to do this project. We had to take from operating to help
With the
capital, right. So that did probably, I would consider it that it came out of operating, because operating lent a lot of money to capital.
What we should do is really go back to the original entries of how the money was applied out.
Okay,
And fund,
Right, but
fund
there was
that
a
plan to the
problem
extent
last
that
year
it
with the
originally
audit
was.
for that reason, that it was commingled or something. There was something where the two were overlapping. There was a whole thing in a letter from Donnelly about it.
I'll have to go back
Yes.
to double check that,
Please
but I
do.
didn't remember
Okay,
reading
please
that.
do.
But I agree with what you're saying, the way it was split up and we took it out, that's the way it should go back into
Exactly
those
the same
accounts.
way.
Correct, and
Right.
then if we wanna move whatever amounts
Right.
from capital back into operating
For whatever reason.
after the fact, that
Right,
would be
but-
subject to a board vote.
But that it's clean.
Yeah, correct, yeah, we
Correct.
just wanna, as
Bill,
Charlie, yeah, sorry.
What's his name?
It's one of those days, I haven't seen it in 2 months,
Joey.
it is what it is. Just as Charlie said, we dipped into our own kitty essentially, so we
Right.
just gotta fund it back to the extent that we took it.
Right.
That way we're back to square one, and then whatever movements we wanna make within would be just subject to
Well,
the board
yeah,
vote.
capital has to always stay capital because the 110,000 that the community gives is supposed to be for capital, not for salaries.
No, well, obviously we
Right.
have to see what the
Right.
threshold is at that point.
Yeah,
And
But the project
keeping whatever
itself
requirements are
went
there.
over that. And so I had saved through the years anticipating a project, anticipating in fact a 3-story building, and what if they didn't give us enough operating right away? That would cost a lot more to operate. So I'm very frugal, I had saved enough, and fortunately I did, because the project needed a lot of that operating money to finish this project. And so the way I see it is, the operating account lent all this money to capital and should be
Yeah, but
reimbursed first.
like he says, you'll find out how much it is and just
Right,
that
first-
amount.
I
first
know
will count.
First we
ballpark how
pay
much
back-
it is.
But
yeah.
it has to be
we'll have
exact.
we can go back.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all saying the
That's
same
all.
thing.
Yeah.
I think we can let Casey take care of that.
Yep.
I think he has the credentials.
No problem.
We have auditors here who have completed an audit for us, and I think between the auditors and Casey and Charlie, who's on the finance
I have a
committee, that we
calculator on
can,
my phone, I'll have
we can deal with
You
it
turn it sideways, it goes scientific.
I know.
properly.
On the
Excellent.
iPhones, not on the Androids.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay.
What I will say as a side note, if you Google the Monroe Free Library, the demo image of the 3-story building that you're talking about actually comes up as the image.
Is that right?
It's not
How
even the
upsetting
demo
is
of the
that?
3-story building, it's nothing, I don't
It's
know where
nothing,
they
you don't know where
got
it
it,
came from.
nope, never saw it.
A dream unrealized.
And I spent $100 on the calculator for Josh. He could have just
There you
flipped his
go.
phone.
Yeah, but you can't bring the phone into the test.
That doesn't,
Yeah.
that's not a graphic calculator.
You have to put it into airplane mode.
Okay, where are we, people? Treasurer's report?
So I'll make it short and brief, just a couple of points. I'm going to make a motion in a second to table this month's the August financials. We have Robert Hutcher coming in next week to have a big talk, and we have a new bookkeeper coming in, so I want to just get us to the point where the new bookkeeper, the existing staff, myself, are all on board with the best practices from the library system. It's great to know that the new bookkeeper comes from a library background.
Yes.
She's gonna have some benchmark practices as well, there won't be the ambiguity necessarily that we faced in the past. So with that, first I'll just start with that. I'd like to make a motion to table the August financials until the next meeting, once we have the full well, we don't have to put in the rest of it, but just table the August financials. Do I have a
Okay,
second?
do we have a second?
You have a second?
All in favor? Abstentions?
That was unanimous.
Unanimous? Thanks.
Okay.
It was magnanimous.
So, now that being said, so we have Robert Hutcher, or not Robert Hutcher.
Steve Hofer.
Steve Hofer, I apologize. Steve Hofer coming in to talk to us about best practices, talk to us about our existing policies and what should change, what responsibilities everyone should take on. And for me to talk about the warrant process, which is the best way for library treasurers to go through and actually audit the financials on a monthly basis. So once we have all that in place, then we'll go back and we'll revisit the months of financials that we haven't done so far. Barbie, you brought up an interesting point about not getting the financials prior to this meeting. Part of the reason for that is when those, and in the past, Marilyn would actually hand those out to everyone who was coming to the meeting, not just the board, but everybody. The problem with doing that is you're disseminating information that hasn't been agreed upon, hasn't been voted on, so we don't want that necessarily getting out to the public when it's not finalized. So I am going to talk to Steve Hofer as well as to what the best way to get that information out is, whether it's setting a date that I do my warrant so that I'm comfortable with the financials for it to be released just to the board, for the board eyes only, whether it's we wait and we do it 1 month in arrears, where today's meeting we would be looking at July's financials,
Right, okay.
and
That's fair.
and that's what gets out to everybody, but the August wouldn't go out until it was
That's
voted
fair.
on.
It's just
So-
there was no explanation and I just was wondering where it was, all of a sudden it wasn't here.
Understandable, and I apologize, I've been
Thank
falling
you. No, it's
down on
fine.
the job a
I think
little
it's
bit,
fine.
just with
But I'd
everything
like to
going on
look
in
at
my
an
career.
old one when we discuss the questions that we had for the
Sure,
board.
and I'm sure Marilyn can
Okay.
bring up an old
Thank you.
report, this way we
Okay.
can
From the
see
month, the last month, maybe, if you'd be so kind.
well, the last month that was approved.
Yeah.
So
we
probably June, I think, or May.
The June one was approved.
June one was approved, okay, so the June financial would be fine, because I think to Barbara's point, what she's looking for is to see what the balance was in that.
I want to see where what was separated with the capital for that.
Do
Because
you
I had a
have,
question on this.
do you have something in your mind?
Well, I had some
Capital account?
questions, that's why I just wanted to
Okay,
say.
sure.
It was asked that everyone forward the questions to me so that I could put them to the auditors beforehand.
Well, Denise and I had a couple of meetings, we're supposed to be the co-chairs of the committee,
Yeah,
and we
but
had questions that we would discuss,
I
we met a
didn't,
few
I
times.
didn't know you were having a meeting, you didn't apprise me of the fact.
We didn't have a formal meeting, I was running back and forth, my daughter had a baby this week, and Denise had.
Congratulations! Mazel
You have to say it again. A big baby.
Oh,
wow.
So anyway, I had some questions and it related to that, so I knew that that's where I was coming from.
But the questions came up later than when you are more recent, not.
It was all
It's not-
since you sent us the thing on, you know, the fiscal year thing this week, right?
So I guess we can revisit that.
Okay.
After that.
So we are going to vote on the audit this evening, is that not your
Oh, I didn't
intention?
know whether that was for me to do or whether that was for the
It was
audit
the
committee.
audit, I wouldn't think that it would be the
Audit committee does
finance
that.
committee.
Wouldn't it?
It would be separate, that's
If it's
the
an
whole
audit
purpose.
that's being voted on, it would be
different.
the audit committee that would present
Right.
it.
Right,
Well, since I heard nothing from the audit committee, I didn't realize that the audit committee was going to do it, but we do need to pass it tonight. We would like to do that if at all possible.
well, maybe we can go through some of the things when we get to it.
Okay, all right.
Oh, okay, I see that it's finance and that it says audit report, but I guess we can just make another bullet.
Okay,
Or I'm happy to yield my time for finance committee because progress, we have the meeting with Steve Hofer, but we'll get to that at the point. Before we move into the report of standing committees, I would like to move us into executive session to talk about compensation issue with personnel.
You have to make a motion.
Oh, I'll make a motion to.
okay, all in favor? Unanimous.
Oh, should I turn that off? Yeah.
Yeah, it's executive.
Okay, so I just turn powerless.
Just right here is the start.
Waiting for the final copy.
Okay.
I'm terrible at reading script, so.
This is hardly script.
You didn't learn that in school?
I learned how to write it. They never taught us how to read it.
What?
Because it's horrible.
It's like being taught how to write French, but not able to read it.
Right. I learned at museums over this weekend that that's exactly how they used to teach English. They would have you do the handwriting first, and then later, when you got older, they'd teach you how to read what you wrote. So
you're still waiting for that second?
I'm still waiting. Well, it was that year that they brought in computers and we didn't have to plan anything.
There you go.
Sure, good boy. So I would like to make a motion to retroactively.
Yep, he wants to make a motion, you seconded after.
Let him make the motion.
I'm sweating.
All right.
Keep reading.
We got it.
So a motion to retroactively reimburse employees D $398.95 and employee E $627.98, as well as the forgiveness for employee E of $1,043.60 still owed to the library. Do I have a second to the motion?
I second. Donna seconds.
All
Those in favor? It's unanimous. Very good.
What else?
Okay.
Other than that, that is all the treasurer has to report. And preemptively, I will yield my finance time to the audit committee later.
That's so
Okay.
kind
Oh.
of you.
The least I can do.
Well, let's start with nominating.
Well, we haven't met yet, but if there's anybody who's interested in becoming an officer, who are running for the office, let me know, and then we'll put something together. And then what else? So can I say that we have whose terms are going to expire this year? Or?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so we have 4 people whose terms are going to expire this year. Should I get names? Or?
Yes.
Okay, well, just so you know, so everybody knows, I'm new at this. I'm new at this. So the names of the 4 trustees whose terms expire at the end of this year are Casey, Barbara, Donna, and Pat. So those are the 4. So again, if you're, if you have any interest or being an officer or being on the executive committee, let me know. And I guess that's it. That's all we have to say. We're going to put together a meeting sometime this month.
Do we have to express interest to stay in our position?
Yes.
Okay.
You better
I don't know if
No,
the
but
bylaw was
incumbent.
changed. I don't know if the bylaw was changed, but the nominated committee generally starts its year in October.
Yeah.
So next month is October.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
He's just
So we'll
giving you a
have
heads
a,
up.
we'll have
So you
a,
become, you have
Yeah,
to
the terms
sign,
aren't-
yeah, because I
reassess
haven't
if
done
you
it
wanna
before,
join again.
and
Right.
I was gonna say,
No, I'm just
time
saying.
flies.
I'm just
Barbara,
saying.
I'm going to say this nasty word. He's being proactive.
ooh,
I know that, I know with
so
that.
20th
But I
century.
just meant that is he gonna remain on the committee, because the committee
Oh, right,
starts in
right.
October.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Oh, me? Yes.
Yes, that's what I meant. I didn't mean
As far
to.
as I know.
Good luck to Dave right now.
Building and grounds,
Thank you.
Charlie?
Yeah, that'd be me. Originally, I didn't have anything for this evening, but after the commentary from the director, we are basically looking at now having to fix the problems that
Make sure
came
it's
in
still
from the issues with the condensation pipes on the roof that are now digging into the roof, along with, of course, the gas pipes not being laid correctly that need to be laid correctly. Don't know if anybody's been watching the weather and news lately, but there's been a few weather conditions that could potentially impact us at some point because hurricane season's not over until sometime next month. So with that being said, I think we need to look at trying to figure out how to get those things resolved, since they're not going to be replaced or repaired by what should have actually been some type of a warranty for the installation. So at this point, I only have 1 bid out. I have not written a policy yet for building and grounds for quote-unquote emergency repairs. This is technically not an emergency, but I would state that if we don't get this fixed sooner rather than later, we run the risk of now having a leak in the roof. So I have a quote already from WK Mechanical that was proactive, since they were the ones that pointed everything out to us initially when they were up there replacing the new unit that's keeping this place nice and cool. And that was $2,684 to fix everything and get everything back into spec. So I will put it out to bid for at least 2 more bids to try to get something done within the next week or 2 before the weather starts to turn sour and get colder and all those other fun things.
What was the number?
$2,684.
was the bid you got from it?
From WK Mechanical, I have a quote. I just have to make sure it's still valid because that was from end of July, 1st of August. And typically they only go for 30 days. Some actually are valid for 90, but I'll check with him. I don't think
Okay.
the parts that he's talking about are not going to be that big of a deal for repair.
Okay.
So my committee and I.
Does that include the roof repairs?
Everything.
Yes.
It's everything all
And I would just say we have to get this done before the winter.
Yep. Yep. So I'll put out some bids to figure out what's going on with that, and we'll take it from there. I would like to ask for that same type of tacit approval, if you will, so that if it's less than, let's say, $3,000, I can move forward with it without having to come to the board.
Can I just bring something up?
Yep.
Especially with the weather being what it is. Just kind of on the backside of what you're saying, with having that as a dollar amount and throwing RFPs out, and we know that we don't always get responses back timely. And with the weather conditions, what the season that we're going into, is it possible that we can put a deadline? You know, if we get our RFPs back by blank,
Yep,
we can add it to that. And then, you know, if we can afford it, go with WK Mechanical down the street.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think the biggest thing is, like you're saying, is getting the responses back. The other thing is, and this is going to be a quick mention, my wife and I had actually talked to somebody about the backyard area. And that was only because we saw the work that he did down the street. And we're going to have him do some work for us in the front. And I talked to him about coming out here, and he's like, yeah, he says, I'll be more than happy to come out and take a look. And he's proactively calling me, and I had a kind of a sidebar conversation with it saying, you know, I've got to try to send this out for bid because of the dollar amount that's probably going to be involved in that. And he said, yeah, good luck. And I said, what do you mean? He says, they don't typically call you back. And I said, yeah, I've seen that in the 20 years that we've lived here. We don't always they'll say, oh, I'm going to come back, and I'll see you next Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
You're there Wednesday and nobody ever shows up. It's worse than the cable company.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean,
But now there's cable competition. It's
well,
better.
yeah, this is true. It is getting better. But with this kind of dollar amount, basically what I want to do is send it out and say, look, I need a response from you by a week from Wednesday. So that way we get a response back in a timely manner. We can make our decisions and get this stuff taken care of before it starts to get nasty.
Okay, Charlie, do you want a motion to, for the
Yeah, if that's
freedom
fine.
to act?
Yeah, the freedom to act for anything. So I make a motion that the Building and Grounds Committee has the freedom to act on repairs of the condensation pipes and the gas pipe repair and the roof repair for anything less than $3,000. We don't need to come back to you.
Talk slower, she's writing.
We'll talk afterwards. Call me. Have your service call my
Okay,
service.
do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Casey seconds. Those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
Okay, you have
Thank
the
you.
freedom to act on condensation and gas pipes repair
And roof repair,
and roof repair.
which is going to be minor.
And what was the rest of that sentence? Wasn't there a dollar amount?
Yeah, less than $3,000. $3,000 or less, actually, is what I said.
Yeah.
What about the door? Do you need to mention the door?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the door was actually broken. We suspect we have the criminal who did it, but
Which door?
the front door. I don't know if you noticed as you were walking in the front door this evening. You come in that secondary door. That little area there is called a man trap because it traps you inside there technically. But that second inner door. At some point, we think it was during your little solar.
We know it was.
Yeah.
We saw it on tape.
Yeah, I won't go into the specifics on that, but just suffice it to say, we suspect, in the legalese, we suspect that we know who did it, but gentleman came in and asked for the glasses. We said we didn't have any anymore. We had run out. Sorry. The gentleman got ticked, and he pushed that door as hard as he could, walking out because he was mad. He and his little daughter. And the door got stuck. Well, we think in the process of it not only getting stuck on the little round hinge that is on the bottom that actually bolts it open,
The door stop, yeah.
that little door stop, that probably fractured the glass. And over that amount of time, the 3 or 4 weeks that has elapsed since then, it just slowly started to fracture. And then one day, about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, Mary calls me and says, our window's broken. And it just, the whole door just shattered. The nice thing about safety glass is it stays in place so nobody gets cut. But now we are up for about $300 to fix it. So we have glass on order, and it will be replaced in 2 weeks.
The question
Something like
would be
that.
what the deductible is
Right.
for that.
Right, it was not that much money.
No.
It's 300 and
I
it's
think
less
it's
than-
400.
Is it
I think
400?
It's 420.
You originally said 358 is what the original quote was.
Tax?
But we had to get tempered glass. We had to get low E. We had to match the glass that was in there.
Oh, so that.
So I
that's a
sent you an
different-
additional.
I didn't see that.
Oh, I sent you additional paperwork the other
I'm
day.
missing that.
Is the library seeking any sort of compensation from the suspected party?
You know, because of the fact that the video quality that we have wouldn't actually prove that that person cracked the glass. Although we highly
We know
suspect
he
it
put a
was.
hole in the wall and
Yeah.
stuck, and that doorstop came out of the tile.
The other thing that I'm gonna ask is that we go in and replace that doorstop with something that's more rectangular rather than the round ones, because the round ones will do that. The little rectangular ones can actually act as a magnet. It doesn't need the little hook,
Oh.
and it just magnets the
It
door
just
open.
got stuck on there, and the door wouldn't
Mm.
close, and I jimmied it up, and Bill hit it with the hammer, and we got it off.
Is
It
that,
came out.
So then you can't.
is that door considered a fire
No.
door though?
It-
Can it be held open?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be held open. The external door cannot, I don't believe. I have to look at what the code says for local, because
Well,
it's,
in the shop.
it basically, whatever the governing authority is here and what their code says basically supersedes everything that the state does. So, unless, of course, what the state has is more stringent. So.
Wow.
Yeah, so a couple of things going on with building and grounds this year. Busy year.
It's been very busy.
So how much money do we need to fix the door, the wall, and potentially the doorstop?
The wall,
West-
I'll have Rocco, it's not a hole, it's just an indentation.
Okay, so you're just gonna plaster it over.
Rocco can do that.
Probably less than,
Paint it.
Yeah.
less than $600,
Oh.
depending on what the glass
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Less than 600.
Do you want to know free now?
Yeah, I think my policy is basically going to say anything that's less than $3,000, we have the ability to have that act.
Well, my only, I'm fine with that in theory. My only question is what happens when it aggregates and it's, you know, we spent 500 on this and 600 on this and 1,000 on this and 2,000 on this. Every single purchase was under the 3,000.
Right.
But then as you aggregate each individual request, it becomes more than what was discussed.
Then you can help me write the policy.
Oh.
Thanks for volunteering.
You're welcome. I appreciate that.
So yeah, I'd like to make a motion that if it's less than $600 for the repair of the door, the repair of the wall, the little rectangular thing to fix the front door issue, that I can have that.
I second.
All in favor? Unanimous?
You just have to identify what
Yeah.
Sure.
an event is. And then once we define what event is, I'm fine with it being up to 3,000.
This
door
is actually little.
The other things I don't have a problem with.
On the building
But
or
that can be built
bylaws?
in the
Bylaws, wow, that's me again.
Charlie,
That's you
I
again.
haven't been here in a while. Was that bathroom numb, please?
It was.
Ah,
It was, and it's just as bad and awful as the original one was, so, or so I heard. But yeah, it was indeed replaced. I'm gonna ask that you guys take one and pass it. And if there's extras we can share with the audience, that'd be, oh, are you kidding me? Dang, it didn't come out colored.
Oh.
Come on.
Mine didn't come out color either.
Go pretend.
Heck. All right. Well, yeah. Just
So
yeah.
There was only black and white.
Whatever you
Whoa, I need that one.
They weren't
4 to 4.
correlated?
Yeah, they are correlated, but their correlation system stinks.
Ah,
I'm gonna ask that we get new stuff over there. There's 1 or 2 of them there. Huh?
How many are in the collation?
4. There's 4 pages total. So yeah. There's 4 total pages.
4
Uh-oh.
sheets or 4 because it's front and back?
Yeah, there's an extra one of those.
Second,
I don't know
yeah.
how I got that
So
one.
just 2, yeah, because it's from
It's front and back, so it should be.
The
a
page
total-
numbers are on the bottom.
Did we?
Yep.
Yeah. Was it
Oh,
this
wait, so
one?
I should only be taking
Hold on,
two
I got
sheets.
it.
Two
One,
sheets, yeah.
two.
It's a total of two. I'll wait till everybody gets something.
Just take 2 sheets and keep that.
Josh,
If it was a
see how
dollar,
this thing is like lines in
This is what
it. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would want it in color too, because it's the vinyl.
Yeah,
Why is it gonna change batteries?
I mean,
The lines in
Did you
there,
guys-
Yeah,
when
it's
the
just a-
battery's running down.
No, it's just a grid.
I really don't.
that's all right. I'll walk you through them since they're not in color.
4 on the back.
It does,
the other
'cause
one
it's-
says 3.
Yeah.
I'm good then.
Charlie,
Yeah.
you sent out an email on 9/7. That
No,
was
just
an
don't put it up there.
update. What is that?
That's what we're talking about.
That's what we're
But
talking
this
about.
doesn't look like this.
It is that though.
It was a summary.
It is, yeah.
He only
Okay.
summarized what he was gonna do.
Yeah, so basically all I did was give you a brief
No.
summary of what I was gonna be
Right.
changing tonight. Now I'm giving you the
Okay.
details,
Okay.
okay? So the first proposed revision, we met this past Thursday evening, as we do the first Thursday of every month, in that nice little conference room B over there. We met and we discussed, again, most of these things are dealing with the Board of Trustees, Article 3. As a matter of fact, tonight, all 3 of them are. The first one deals with Section 1 Trustees. And we had actually discussed this at last meeting. But what we wanted to do is add a new section, which is what's under the proposed change 1. Article 3, the Board of Trustees, Section 1 Trustees. That first paragraph that starts with, all actions of the board shall be of the board as a unit. We're adding that's the proposal, is to add that paragraph.
That's a good one.
Yep.
That may be your very best.
Well, gee, thank you. And I have to give props to, who was it?
Sorry.
Yeah, Terry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
That really is a good one, because
Yeah.
we've gone through a number of times.
Absolutely.
She
people
wordsmithed
become
that
rogues.
really, really well. We kind of helped her
Very good.
wordsmith it a little bit more, but that's what we came up
Very
with,
good.
and
Yeah, she proposed it.
she proposed this, so it was very nice. So do I have a motion to accept the change?
You wanna make it?
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the change as written in this, and that way Anne Marie can refer to that.
Article 3, do we have a
Yeah,
second?
which is Article 3, the Board of Trustees, Section 1 Trustees, starting with that all actions of the board paragraph and adding that to it.
I second.
Okay, those in favor? Everyone's in favor, it's unanimous?
Okay, moving on. The next one is talking about Article 3, the Board of Trustees, this time Section 5, removal of trustees. And if you go to the 3rd page,
What is that? Oh.
basically what we're looking at here is removal of trustees. On the 3rd page, what we're talking about is, what exactly did we do on this?
You changed from 1, 2, and 3, it looks like, to just 2 subparagraphs in the instruction.
Yep, that's exactly what it was. So basically what you're looking at is it's a change of verbiage. Number 1 says a trustee who misses 3 consecutive board meetings in any calendar year shall be subject to removal. We took out a lot of the other thing pursuant to New York Education Law 226, subdivision 8, and a lot of the
Yeah,
other
but it-
additional information there.
It's in your new one.
Right. Well, then on the second one, if you compare basically the two, that's what's changed. The second one, we basically removed 2, 3, and 4 and replaced it with this. A trustee may also be removed for misconduct, incapacity, neglect of duty, or refusal to carry into effect the library's educational purpose pursuant to New York Education Law, Section 226, Subdivision 8, which we're also going to add to the appendix. In the event that the board seeks to remove a trustee for the above-mentioned reasons, the following procedures are employed. A written complaint to remove a trustee from office must state the factual basis for removal and be submitted for a resolution to remove by the board. All proceedings for resolutions to remove and for the actual removal of trustees shall remain confidential within the board. B, a trustee who is subject to removal is entitled to written notice, including a copy of the complaint and delivered at least 7 days prior to the meeting at which the resolution is to be considered for vote. And C, before the Board of Trustees votes on the proposed resolution, the board member in question may present arguments in opposition before the vote. A majority vote of the board is required for removal. This
Wasn't it a
comes,
supermajority before or not?
not for this,
No,
no.
Okay.
No, and this is actually coming from the,
Trustees handbook?
yeah, the trustee handbook.
What I will ask is simply, in the old policy.
Yeah.
In number 2, just about the second or third line up from the bottom of number 2 in the old, it actually specifies the means of delivery. Do we need to do that?
Nope, not
Okay,
necessary.
So it's okay to be email, it's okay
Correct.
to be snail mail, it's okay
Correct.
to drive by them and go, hey, you're fired.
Yep,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah, you can knock them on the head, you can do the NCIS gives.
Yep, that's
Slap
perfect.
Yeah, that works.
It said, see accompanying notes to the financial statement. And those are my questions with notes.
Yeah, it's gotta be the
This thing, and that.
Oh, so then, all right, then if it's what's on page 8, then that's fine, that's fine.
I
That's
can ask
fine.
a question just because I know that it wasn't.
And if that's the question, that's fine.
Honestly, make themselves.
The other question was,
I'm not, I beg pardon, I'm not sure if everybody knows this is
I'm
Dina
sorry,
No,
Laura,
no.
I just, no, it's okay,
apologize.
no,
That
no,
was-
I'm not asking for, I just wanted to make sure.
because I
If
keep
somebody
calling you Miss
wanted-
Horrible.
I'm Lorelei Pitt, and this is Dina DeVico.
Hi.
Dina,
Good evening,
hi,
ladies.
how are you?
My apologies.
No,
That- I
please,
should have
no,
done
I
that.
didn't,
Your
I
last
just
name?
wanted to, in case,
DeVico?
Yes, DOVICO.
Thank you.
so we had sent the drafts
Right, well, that's what I'm,
a bit
Referring to,
ago,
right.
and we were hoping to see if everybody your board had reviewed the information and would come up with questions, pose them, if there were questions or concerns, forward them to us so we could have a proper response. That question,
the notes
Excuse
with
me, the
those
notes
pages,
with the-
those
Right,
things.
right,
That's
that's
why I
Okay,
asked.
then I have
that-
further notes, okay.
That was
further.
why I asked all questions to be directed to me so that I could direct them to Lorelei.
Okay, sorry.
but I thank you,
All
that was
right,
a very
also,
good question.
normally, the taxes, the 990 and the CHAR 500, are usually used to cross-reference with the audit, and they weren't attached to you, or have you not done that?
The Form 990 is normally completed, again, presented for signature or e-filing and sent out. You are on an extension, and normally they need to go hand in hand. So
Right.
immediately upon you, within yourselves, talking or addressing the questions, then we can give you that. But if you're questioning or having concern about something in the contents of this, it would also need
Reflect
to
on
be.
you fixing it.
That's
why
correct.
we normally put it together when, I was on the audit committee last year and the year before, and we usually looked at it as a package together.
Right, so we
So now
would
we're
want
doing
to
it
give that
separate,
to
you
you.
prefer to do it separate.
I don't want to give you, for me, I don't want to give you something and then it has to change and then we have to go again. And the more
Okay.
and more copies.
Yeah.
I understand, okay,
Yes,
then
first.
then that's fine, okay. The next question I had, I really needed the chart, because it said here that,
Page?
that the capital fund is all cash
That's an
on
old
page
chart.
3. But I know there was certificates, yes,
June 30th?
that'll help.
I don't
Just
know
see
if that's
if
the
it's in
chart
that-
you're talking about, but that's
Yeah,
our
that
chart.
is the chart.
Okay.
Um, Right, because at Hometown Bank, which is now another name, I don't know what the new name is. But our capital fund was in, a CD there, or a money market there, and it comes up here as though it's cash.
Money market is a cash equivalent.
She's on page 3.
Yeah.
It is considered,
is
is that why you
money
call it
market account
cash?
is
Is that the
considered
reason?
Cash,
If it is, then that's fine.
And
But that
that,
just, I wonder.
just so the rest of the board knows, that would be referenced on page 3.
Correct,
From a liquidity standpoint, money market is considered just as good.
okay. And then under capital assets in building equipment and improvement, there's the 2,522,866. What determined that, that figure? Is that the new building?
That's
Is it
correct.
also include the book garden?
We're on page, are we
On page,
still
I'm still on page 3,
Okay.
under capital assets.
So it's it's your building, your equipment, and your improvements.
Here,
So
is it also including the other building?
The bookstore that's next door, the old dentist office, does it include that?
If that's on our book, if that's on your books and records, yes.
It is, okay. And then you separated out closing costs. Was that not part of this, the building, is that a separate thing? Because that was when we did our mortgage and it says closing
That's
costs,
consistent with.
29,000.
Right, we modeled that from your prior year, and that needed to be separated out.
Separated out.
Yes, ma'am.
You do separate that out because it's not part of the value of the building. If you
Okay.
ever resell the building, you don't get to recoup your closing.
Okay, no, that I understand. Then, okay, on page 4, under net assets, it says unrestricted, 1,987,617. What general ledger number relates to this particular figure? Where did the unrestricted funds? Is it a conglomeration of?
That represents your, in quote unquote, retained earnings that comes right from your chart of accounts.
So it's a combination of the.
Whatever, I don't know your chart of account numbers, each and every one of them, but I think it's only one account.
Yeah, we would say it's the retained earnings line
Your
from
retained
the
earnings.
financial.
Okay.
So anything that's not specifically earmarked as permanently restricted or temporarily restricted in the case of, the Larkin grant for the furniture, anything else would fall under normal income that came in, retained earnings, and therefore unrestricted funds.
Okay, so then what happens, like on page 5, under revenue and support, the tax support, you pulled out, I see the 110,000, that's the capital, and it says temporarily restricted. Wouldn't it be?
That was changed. You received a new draft on Friday. It was sent out to the board, and that was changed to board designated. It doesn't say temporarily restricted any longer.
So it says now board
Designated,
designated.
yes.
Okay, thank you. But that goes directly in, but doesn't that go directly into the hometown account?
From that perspective, I'd have to look at it.
The capital fund is.
I don't even have this in front of me.
No, I'm sorry. The capital account is 110,000 taken every year from the taxpayer support. For the building fund, it pays the mortgage, and it's any other, we had talked about redoing something with the book garden. It would be generated in that direction perhaps, but that money is separated from operating money.
110 is more than what we need to cover our mortgage out.
The mortgage is 95.
Right.
Mortgage should be 90 though.
It's like 92, isn't it? It's not 95.
Maybe the taxable.
I don't know, but it goes in 5160.
What?
On the chart, it goes, the 110 goes into account 5160.
Which is the hometown account.
Account, it's not
Right.
Walton.
No, then that's all right, and it's board, okay, then that answers the question.
Wait, I have a question on that same account that you're talking about, that's now board designated. If I remember, there was like a really high amount in there. It was like 400 and something.
484.
Why was that in there?
Because we're trying to save now to do something with the book garden, or if we want to do a phase 2 of the building here. We were going to ask for more money to be put aside in a future thing. We talked about it last meeting. We had years ago asked for the 110 before we had this building. When we thought we wanted 3 stories, and then we would, it was a whole other thing.
So we could afford 3
But we were talking a month or 2 ago about increasing this going forward so that we could possibly fix the book garden and build on from here.
It's my understanding this showed up in 2015. It just showed up.
400?
Yeah. But there's nothing in the minutes that reflects any vote taken by the board to do that.
To do what?
So is that operating money that went into that?
Operating money was pulled out and put into this, well, it was called something else now that's changed.
I don't know what it was
to
called, but there was a whole thing where it was commingled last year. If you look back at
The
the
question of
notes from
commingling, I think, comes to more
It
so
was the
back to.
reverse, no, it was the
where-
reverse, they were using like,
If I can.
Kathy would know what it is more than I, if you'd let her speak, I don't
There
know.
was a fund at the Sterling Bank, that had approximately $700,000 in it. It was earning 0.01% interest, and it was agreed upon by Marilyn and by the board that half of that fund was operating and half was capital. And the capital part was the 350, and then you added on the 110 that came in from the taxpayer support that year, and that was how it came to the 400 and some odd dollar figure. And
But then that should have gone away because that money was used to build this building, so why is it still there?
that money was not all used to build this building. The loan that was taken from the bank paid 85%, and only 15% of the total cost of the construction had to be paid with our own funds. And everything was taken out of Sterling at a ridiculous interest rate and put into Greater Hudson, where we were getting 0.65% interest.
Much better.
And that money was supposed to be part of the capital money, so that 40 Mill Pond Parkway could be demolished, renovated, expanded, phase 2 of the building project. But if that money disappears from the capital fund, there will be no money left to do anything with this structure that cost almost $700,000.
Okay, now we're getting into another realm. I don't see it quite that way. As director, over the years, I did save money so that we could do a building, and we did have a referendum for a 3-story building. That was operating money earmarked by public vote for operating. But I realized, and at first I fought it being used for this project. The project came in at $1.9 million, as we knew it would. It didn't run over. It was earmarked at that. But the mortgage we got was based upon the $110,000, and the board wanted to use 90 of that 110 to pay a mortgage, which gave us $1.1 million. Obviously, you can see we were $800,000 short. But we got a $236,000 state construction grant and a $44,000 state construction grant and a $36,000 state construction grant, which did help along that line. And then I was agreeable. We had to do the project. So this money that was earmarked for operating came into this building. I don't recall, nor was there ever a vote that we split that money in half. It was just whatever was needed to build this building, and then that was it. To now take this amount of money is going to negatively impact my operating budget. And I think that has to be changed.
Okay, if I may, I've listened to explanations. I thank everybody for presenting those. We received the numbers to start the audit as of January 1st, 2016. So we inherit the number for the beginning of the year from an audit you had already had. The firm has to take that number and work with the confines from January 1st, 2016 going forward. And that's how that column evolved and what we had at the end of the year. So for me, you probably need to have more discussion, but right now I can't change really what
was there.
happened in 2016.
Exactly.
I can't change what happened in
Exactly.
2016.
Right.
We can have a conversation. and
But
vote
that's
on
for your-
the
Exactly.
Or
designated fund.
go into your
Absolutely,
other.
we can, move into
You're right.
that.
So I apologize, you go into your formality, your rules, your regulations that you need to do, what you're required to do, what you're supposed to do, but we inherited a balance
numbers,
from
exactly, you
the
can't
other
change what it is.
person.
You're right,
No, that's fine.
you're right,
So
that's
we'll-
fine.
It is what it is for right
It
now.
is what
We'll
it
have to
is.
do
That's
it-
it.
We'll have to do our own
Exactly.
vote afterwards.
But my next question is,
Correct.
that net asset release from restrictions, the 90,000 and the 20,000, I thought, and we can go back to our motions from years ago, that the figure was supposed to be 95,000 and 15,000 in the other column.
And the
But I'm
reason that was changed by board vote, because, we asked to defer payment on the mortgage for a month or two, which then tacked on a couple of $100 a month, so the payments went up hypothetically from $7,000 a month to $74,000 a month, $7,400 a month, sorry. And the board voted, and it was in all of the financials in November, December 2016, even January 2017. And in one place, I believe on your draft audit, that the division of 110 is 95 and 15, not 90.
That's what I did.
However, $250,000 was paid against that mortgage, which lowered it quite considerably. So the board is gonna wanna take a look at that again.
Well, I have a question on
principal,
on a
but-
future page, because at the end, there was a question about that, with the, I forgot what page it's on, I'll get to it, I had a note. But there was a question I had later on it, because it's written as all interest, but because of the way that the loan is, what you just said, part of the principal is already paid, so the interest is different as you go.
So
Okay.
normally, we would go page by page and give, in addition to yourself, and I thank you so much for preparing the questions, I was remiss in asking, were there any other questions on page 3 on the statement of the financial position? Or may I move ahead to page 4 and then
Right, just go
and then
page by
5,
page.
Right, that's what I was doing. I'm sorry. I
So I apologize to the rest of the
apologize.
board for
Okay.
not
Okay,
asking
someone else has a
the
question
rest
now.
of,
Okay.
Can I ask a general question?
yes, please.
And this is just outside of the statements themselves. I think what was presented to us was the statements themselves. At what point do you issue your actual audit report? Meaning like your position for attestation purposes? Qualified, unqualified?
I think as soon as you're all settled.
Oh,
You're right,
I
there's
mean,
usually an
I-
exit meeting and we clean it
oh,
up.
so you have to agree to the statements first and then you can actually deliver.
Well,
your-
I just,
This is new to her.
I'm hearing, it could be very soon, if you wanna tell me, sometimes I leave these meetings and they'll say, we want this report in 7 days.
I mean it in the sense of, as we're looking at this in context, and maybe you can just get a head nod to either way. Yes, we're attesting to whether, or not, like right now, we're voting on whether or not these financial statements are
I believe they're accurate,
reflective of it.
I believe they're accurate, and
That's what
I
I was
believe,
gonna say.
I believe
Accurate,
we are done.
relatively free from
I'm
mistake.
hearing some information on numbers and different things, but I believe we are
But
done.
that doesn't deal with the audit, that deals with our accountant and how we should actually be classifying things within our own books.
I'm talking about from an audit perspective.
Right. From an audit, no, you're fine right where you are. You're
I'm
good.
ready
No.
to, I'm actually ready to sign them. I'm hearing different things. So let me just, being that, were there any more questions on page 3? And I think we had already done 4 and 5, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Statement of cash flows is page 6, would there be any
Right,
questions on
on
that?
page 6, I was wondering,
Okay.
is there any kind of, it's very difficult to know what these things were as a layman, any of us,
It's
especially
very
those of
hard
us
sta-
who are
very
not
hard
in,
statement.
right. So is there any way to, like, I know there's a narrative here, is there any way to cross-reference to what is on this page in the narrative? When do you know what I'm saying?
I
Like the
understand your
cash flow
question.
section is the most difficult, I think.
Okay, so I think the question before us is on the statement of cash flows, where in the notes would there be a narrative that could explain some of the information?
Okay.
So that is the
Right, because
question.
it's a little, those of us not in numbers, and I'm not talking about Casey.
I'm gonna-
Because even when Pat sent the information, sent the thing out to everybody, some of us don't understand it at all, but you can't just rubber stamp it, so you have to kind of understand what you're reading
So,
to the best of it.
so,
Us, maybe.
do we have?
Right? I mean, did you understand it when you
Not all of
read it?
it, no.
And you weren't gonna just sign, you can't just sign off on it, it's not a position.
I mean, it's a-
It's our
right.
responsibility.
Absolutely.
So
is there something in particular
you wanna lie about it?
Do you understand?
Yeah, they wanna know. The question
Are you
before us is there a narrative, that can help explain page 6?
Within the context of page 6, you have different line items, which can be cross-referenced back to the next.
Okay, so let's pick one as an example.
Depreciation.
So, to answer your question, Dina's gonna look at depreciation,
Okay,
which is one of the very first numbers, depreciation,
Correct.
it's 125,928.
On page 10, under the note property and equipment, there's a narrative explaining the accounting policy on property and equipment.
okay. Maintenance,
I think
repairs.
that they wanna know more about an explanation. It's a tough one.
I'm just waiting for her to finish reading it.
Well, you should have ways of decision. You could do depreciation like a straight line method, interest method, or a double declining balance method. So.
That's what I was wondering about, the double
The
declining
gap,
balance
yeah.
method.
Dina, what does unrealized gain refer to?
I dream of
So an unrealized gain or also an unrealized loss is when you sell or terminate an asset that was on your books. If you sold an asset for more than the value, that would be a gain.
Okay.
So
We did
lost
not
on
have
that.
any of that this year.
But what is the $954 like that, is that something we lost?
I'm sorry, where do you see 900?
Page
Oh,
6.
so you've gone down to the next line which says unrealized
Because,
gain.
right,
That does not have anything to do with fixed assets or depreciation. The next line item, unrealized gain, has to do with the value of your investment.
On
Page 3, you hold investments in the amount of $14,932, and the difference between that number and the cost of the investment is an unrealized gain. Because you still have it on your books, once you sell that, then you'll have a realized gain.
So you can also find narrative on page 13. They wanna know where the narrative is that would.
Yes, that would be on page 13, number 10.
Thank you.
Another example is your accounts payable and accrued expenses.
Mhm.
I don't recall there's any narrative. That's just your daily operations of accounts payable and liabilities. It's just a change from one year to another.
Okay.
You have something called principal payments on mortgage on page 6. We have narrative on page.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Principals and payments on mortgage.
payments, mortgage.
Oh,
There's narrative
on
on
page
page
6? Oh, yeah, payments of mortgage.
page 13.
That's the 300 and.
302-484, correct? That's on page 13. Number 11.
Decrease in compensated absences is the staff not taking time off, is that?
Yeah, it's explained in one of these minutes.
Yeah, I think all the information is there, I read it through,
Oh,
completely, and it seemed, anything that I didn't understand, I found explained in the document.
Liability went from,
yes. Yes. We're still on page 6.
Okay.
No, I'll wait, I'll just, I
it
just have
was
one
high,
question.
30, it went from 30,000 down to 14.
So they have a decrease.
Yeah, they paid out.
I think Denise has a question.
Well, mine is on page 13.
Oh, you found it. You went
No,
down?
it's just a general question.
Mhm.
It's about compensated absences. There was incident is the wrong word, but the 2015 salaries were paid in 2016. How is that reflected, or is it reflected?
Say that one more time.
Are you talking about the
2015
union,
salaries,
union
right,
increase?
were paid in 2016. Is it reflected here? I don't see it unless I'm missing it.
The money that would have been paid would be reflected in the P&L under salaries.
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
The money that was paid in 2016
Right. Okay.
would be reflected in your P&L.
Uh-huh.
There is no footnote for general payment of salary.
No, the reason we ask is that it was an odd year because there was a lot of retroactive payment because the unions started.
Okay.
So this year, it would look like they had a reduction in salaries rather than an increase because they were paid an increase in 2015. See,
Okay.
retroactive.
Compensated absences
I think that's what you meant.
refers to when somebody takes time off. And at a certain point in time, there may be a time that they've earned but haven't taken, and they're entitled to that in the future. So the compensated absent balance represents money that you'll pay in regular payroll in the following 3, 4, or 5 months after the year.
For time taken.
For time that hasn't been taken off.
paid in
Yes.
the future. So
It's like
it's
a
future
liability. Future liability. If we were to fire them today, we go to the law.
Right, exactly, it's a liability to the library at some point in time, they need to be paid. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I thought though that Denise's question was a little bit different because in the state annual
Kathy,
report.
I'm sorry, you're not a member of the board and you're not in a position to ask questions of the auditors. I'm sorry, but that's the case.
I had more question. On page 15.
If I didn't address the question, as soon as you're done, I'll go back.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Denise
Okay,
to
then
feel like
finish
your
the other,
question was
sorry.
addressed.
Denise, you can deal.
You know what, Denise?
Yeah,
What that
because you know, I'm
meant
looking
was,
at it from an HR perspective.
yeah. Because of
Is that
changes
lens
in the way people would be compensated if they left, like you no longer got paid for sick days as you walked out the door. It used to be a much higher number, and it went down by $31,000. That's why you're seeing that parentheses there saying there was a decrease in that compensated liability. I call it compensated liability, compensated absence. It went down to 14,000. It used to be maybe 15,000, and that's why it's showing that
Why did
decrease.
it
That's
go
correct.
down? Did we pay it out?
Did
or
I
did people-
explain that properly?
Yeah, but there's still the piece about, you know what, I'm gonna skip it, I'm gonna think a better way to ask the question and then come back to it.
Okay.
Does that have something to do with people having to take their holidays within that, or their?
Holidays are no
Within that-
longer a benefit. It has to do with, say, vacation days. If you can roll 5 vacation days over and everybody left all at once and everybody had 5 vacation days that they'd have to be paid out, then that would be your total liability.
So it's simply accrued paid time that's owed.
Correct.
That's owed.
At the end
It's
of
a
the
policy,
year, as
yeah.
of December 31st, 2016.
Now, they
It
might
used
not
to be
pay
paid
it.
out for more things.
Right.
If you didn't use your sick time, you got paid out, but the board changed that and doesn't pay that out, so it dropped that number quite
Do
considerably.
we pay out the days or do they just carry them forward?
Well, you don't get paid out the days, only if you leave.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. Like, say I rolled over 5 days, but the next year I took them,
Right,
then they're done.
right. Does it max out at a certain level?
No, they had to be
Well, you
used by
can
March.
only roll
we
over
used.
5 days.
Okay, so then
So
the extent of the
you can't ever
liability
go
for any one
higher.
employee should only be 5 days of
Correct.
salary, that's all.
Yeah, because you have personal days don't roll over, you don't get paid for unused sick
I
time.
just meant there's
So-
not one employee in there with 45 days accrued into the liability.
Can't
It's-
happen.
The most
It's
any
not
one
in
person
policy.
has is 5
5
days.
days.
For savings.
And
This
this
is
is part
your
of that
policy.
Yeah.
This is what,
No, absolutely.
what you said,
Yes.
the,
I was only asking the question to clarify here.
thank you.
Yes.
On page 15, the first line, salaries and consulting. Salaries and I guess, yes, okay. That was the one that I had asked before, if this line included that retroactive, payment from the year before. So this line will be different in 2017. I mean, obviously there's a new contract and all, but it
Yes.
won't go up because this is an inflated figure. So is that in the that should be some sort of narrative so we would know it. There may be another board in 2 years and they won't know why those figures are different when we do the 2017 audit.
What exactly
Should
are
there
you
be some, I'm
What
asking,
exactly are
I'm
you
saying that a notation should be made that this was an odd thing.
Why it's
You know what I mean?
It's not something that you would
It's
necessarily footnote though from a gap disclosure perspective. So from the laws of what dictate why there should be footnotes is not necessarily to answer any question that someone reading the financials would have. It's to understand specific laws and how they would apply to these situations.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I, as a layman, or the rest of us sitting
Absolutely,
here, we have to sign off on it, and you kind of want to know.
Absolutely, so I agree the discussion should be had, but
Right.
it's not necessarily something that we would put into the footnotes of the financial
But
statements themselves.
I'm saying, like, next year when somebody asks the same question again, it's gonna be just,
And hopefully
redundant.
we can write it down or document it somewhere,
That's what-
but it's not
that's
gonna be
what-
in the financial
Okay.
statements for the
okay.
audited financials.
So those
What-
notes are to assist the reader. That's usually the
Correct.
terminology we would use to
That's what I'm
assist the
saying, and
reader.
that wasn't a note. Like, also, the medical buyouts, were they added to salaries or employee benefits?
I'd have to look.
remember that one. I honestly don't remember that. I have the papers with me.
I'd have to
I
say
can look that back
benefits.
up though.
I'm thinking it's better.
I think it's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Because as a salary, it has to be
Salaries are
taxed,
funded.
and we ran into an issue with that as well in the past, because they weren't taxed, and we had a big issue straightening it
Yeah, I
out.
think it is. It's just-
Okay. Pretty sure? Yeah.
Okay. There was another one, professional fees. In professional fees, we had two different kind of lawyers. We had a general lawyer, a labor lawyer, there was accounting, auditor, and bookkeeper. So, I'm sure that the general ledger or someplace shows the breakdown of whose it
Yes.
was. And it's interesting because the total figure is 41,000, and that includes everything. You had mentioned something about that we paid $80,000
You're
for a
talking
lawyer.
about the year before.
That was 2015. It was 2016 that we
In 2016, you put out just about $20,000 in legal fees.
Okay, good to know. I thought we were told that it was much more.
Well, if
Okay.
for the year before it was.
Okay. And then on page 16,
Which is your budgetary comparison schedule.
under the interest expense at the bottom, it's next to the last one under expenditures. It says interest expense, the 95, that would be I guess our mortgage. But shouldn't it be, I think it's like a little misleading because part of it was the principal, part of it was the interest, and our principal goes down as we pay off part of it, and so does our interest. So maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it should say mortgage and interest. I may be incorrect there, but it
Because
just
the
would be like,
mortgage payment, there are two components of a mortgage payment. You have your principal
and
your
the interest.
The interest portion
Mhm.
is considered an expense on your profit and loss. The principal portion actually gets deducted from the note payable or the mortgage payable, which
So
is
where
up
would
on,
that be on here?
that's up on your balance sheet on page 4.
Yeah, that was the first thing we looked at.
Okay, okay.
Regular principal interest.
Page 4. It says
Mortgage payable net of current portion,
as well.
781,000.
Plus, if you look on top, it says current portion of mortgage payable. Those two numbers.
So you break that
add
out into your current piece, which is your
due within 1 year.
due within 1 year, and then your long-term piece.
Okay.
And then to go back to reference the interest expense portion from page 16.
Is the interest portion?
Is it, right, and
The
that's
interest
also
expense.
referenced on page 6 under a supplemental disclosures of interest paid for the year. So I just wanna let you know that that's cross-referenced someplace else also.
Unless a specified amount of total interest to be paid on a loan is specified within the loan, normally you just report the expense amount that you actually paid in interest, not the adjustment of future liability based on the reduction of principal payments in the future. So just because we paid down additional principal and now owe less interest, we don't adjust the total future liability because we're not talking about how much interest we're going to pay in the future from a liability perspective, unless it specifically states in your lease, in your mortgage agreement, you will pay no less than this amount in interest going forward. So that even if you pay down your principal tomorrow, you still owe them this amount of interest regardless. So
Thank you.
different types of loan agreements.
Thank you. So the 990 we will get after we sign off of that.
Yes, and
Okay.
the numbers should be the same. They should go from one to the other and back and forth.
Right, the numbers have to be the same, right,
Absolutely.
obviously, right, okay.
And to Casey's point, the final report, if you will, that actually gives us a summary of what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, those kind of things. Is that forthcoming as well, or is that even part of it?
Right,
It's like an exit
Called a
letter.
management letter.
Is there a
Right.
meeting that, or is this considered that meeting?
Well, we were going to address questions and concerns this evening. Do you want us to come, would you like us, are you inviting us back to go over this again? Or only inviting us back if there's some change on here?
I would think only if there's some change or there's some issue.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I think what we're looking for from a comfort perspective is, yes, the financial statements that you've put forth reflect what our financial records indicate.
Yes.
Do you
Yes.
feel, based on your audit, that your review over the financial records that make up these numbers are properly reflective, free from material misstatement, free from intentional
Yes.
frauds?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
For the year
For the year of 2016.
December 31st, 2016 year end.
Yes.
But then you'll
That's what
write
we're
us a
talking
list of
Right.
how to be
Better.
better at it
Yep.
for next year.
Process improvements and all of that
Okay.
withstanding. I just wanted to make sure that we had that comfort going into this vote.
Yes, yes.
Cool.
But there's nothing you see specifically that you
I did
feel.
nothing to address tonight, no.
Okay.
Right, yes, right. Yes, your
Thank
statement's
you for
correct.
being so patient.
No, thank you for explaining all of that.
That's what,
I think everybody helped everybody, and to thank Casey, he works with you quite frequently, so he was able to.
Actually, sounded almost like I knew what I was talking about.
It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for your help.
Barbara, are you gonna make a motion?
I kind of would like to wait till next month if we could table
I-
it.
I
There's a
don't-
lot to absorb tonight.
How does the rest of the board feel?
I'm fine with making a
I'm
motion
fine.
tonight.
Okay, do you wanna make a motion
Sure.
then, Tracy?
Well, am I allowed to? That I'm
Well,
not-
yeah.
I don't think he should, it should be somebody else because it's interactive, you know,
No,
like.
the finance.
Yeah.
If somebody else
Yeah.
would like to, I'll be happy to second it.
Who would like to make, Donna, you wanna make?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the audited financial statements for year ended December 31st, 2016.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, all those in favor?
I'll abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Okay, thank you very much,
Yeah, thank you
Barbara
so much.
and Denise, Lorelei, and Dina. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
Thank you.
time
Yeah.
Thank you.
and your expertise, and we thank you for coming tonight and helping us understand this document, which for many of us is a mystery.
Thank you, Ian.
But the explanations, the notes were very helpful to me.
Yeah, they were.
So then coming up, we should expect the chart 500, the
Audited
990,
financial
and the audit
statements of
report.
December
Correct.
31st, 2016, not subject to.
We don't need to say
From the audit,
subject to audit. Thank you very
That
much.
actually does happen, that's called peer quality review.
Do I need to
You
write
don't
that?
need to write
All
that,
right.
it just happens.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Thank
you. Good night.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you second that?
I second.
Yeah.
All right.
Fundraising, Diane?
Yep. Sunday is, no, Saturday, I'm sorry, is the yard sale that Joanne is running, so if people can come and help her out and be her moral support. Yep. And then, she did ask that some of us just show our faces as board members.
Yeah.
And then on the 24th, we have the music in our library, program. Andres was here this evening, and we're keeping our fingers crossed for nice weather because he did look at the backyard space and really likes that for what he has in store. It should be really fun. There's the 24th. Yeah, the 24th. If we have it outside, when we have it outside, we can do our bake sale while it's going on, so people can munch and eat while they're out there. If we have to come inside, what we'll have to do is just do the food at the end, so that people buy it, take it, and go. People who are baking, you need to wrap each item, whatever it is, individually. What I'd like to do is just mark everything as $1. This way we don't have to try to figure out how much things are. We've done other bake sales in some other groups that I've been with, and $1 seems to be the best. If 3 cookies $1, a cupcake $1, people hear $1, they're more willing to buy than try to figure something that's $2.50 and whatever. So I think we'll just label it that way. Please send me an email if you are going to bake, if you haven't already, and that's it. I hope it's Terry and Alex did a great job making the programs and the flyers, and looks really good. So the kids are excited. 2:00. Yeah, it's 2 to 4 on the 24th. 2:00, we'll get all the kids here. He's going to have a quick little run through with everybody, make sure that we have enough extension cords, things like that. And so we'll probably start really closer to 2:45-ish, but the kids will start being here for 2:00. Yeah. So.
Thank you, Diane. I'd just like to add that Joanne really works hard on this. And if you've got stuff at home that you want to get rid of, it's too good to throw out,
give it to her.
But you're sick of looking at it, just put it in a box and bring it down, and Joanne will be overjoyed.
This is for the yard sale?
For the yard sale.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Is there any way to
Saturday.
transport? Like I have a desk.
I don't know, she takes things
I
that
can't
big.
fit it.
Yeah, they'll do it. She does
If
everything.
you can
out
get
with
it here,
ladies.
she'll sell it, but we have no way of getting it. Yeah.
Okay.
She, I know she was taking a few things out of the book garden. Right. Some bookcases that are in there that we
Oh,
just can't use, and she has for the wall unit. I'm like, whatever you can take, because if we ever rebuild, I'm not, I don't
make some money.
Yeah, we're
from
gonna
it.
need new book,
If it's not nailed down,
Exactly.
she can sell it.
That's right.
and she will.
She will.
We'll
And
call
she-
Rocco and have the money.
So, I went through the bookstore with her and told her, yes, do not touch, yes, do not touch. So she's all set.
And the steel trap will remember
Oh,
that.
yeah. So,
And she is a real treat to watch when she's out there because
oh,
it's
yeah.
I saw her at the
frenetic
last
energy.
Yes.
She loves it. She
Oh.
loves it.
She was
does
feeling
such a
dealing
good
with me while I was
Yeah.
buying CDs.
Yeah.
Oh, this and that. Okay, I'll get some more.
She used to be fabulous in your bookstore.
Oh gosh, yeah.
She
she's
loved
wonderful.
it.
Yeah, she does not let you leave without buying something. She hands people a bag. Here, fill it, and just
Yeah.
give me the $5 now. I'm like, Joanne, they might not want a full bag. Oh, they're getting a full bag. I'm like, sorry. Okay.
Because she realizes overhead, it'll kill you. If they don't sell it, we gotta keep it.
Move it.
That's it.
We think she's
She's
Crazy
very
Eddie's
good.
cousin.
However, she was our best customer.
She
She
was.
would give
I'll
a
let
person
Mr.
a bag and then
Antoine
she'd
know.
buy 2 bags and then she'd give a bag and buy 2 more bags. Anyway, so that's fundraising.
Can I just make a suggestion
Sure.
for the bake sale?
Yes.
My son has a peanut allergy, and just a suggestion,
Mhm.
if you could have people like do a list of ingredients, it'll make parents with the
The
children
recipe.
more
Yeah.
able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
buy something and feel
Okay,
comfortable.
should we-
Put the recipe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We did.
The whole
Walnuts,
recipe,
do
or you want
walnuts
just
have a
no
problem?
nuts?
Do children with a peanut allergy have a problem with walnuts?
No,
That's
children
what
with a tree nut allergy
Yeah.
have a problem with
It's
walnuts.
different. I did tell everybody if it has any kind of peanut in it to label it as peanut allergy. Pat was going to
Even
do
if you
something
just
that's
list the allergens, because you have
Yeah.
milk, soy, tree nuts,
Yeah,
peanuts.
Gluten, yikes.
You know, I mean that'll make parents more comfortable to buy something for their child if they have an allergy.
Diane sent it out when she sent out the initial announcement.
Okay.
She said, make sure you mark
Yes.
everything,
Yeah.
that's all the ingredients, anything that might be an
Yeah, because
allergen.
I
Yeah.
hate when my son's like, "Oh, can I get that?" And I'm like, "No, you can't. We don't
I
know."
know, that hurts.
Lollipop.
And it's more comfortable if it's written down
If it's
instead of
written,
asking
right.
somebody.
Right, you
Yeah.
can just say
You're
here's the
right.
list of ingredients.
You know, because he's very well trained. He's like, "Here, read it, Dad. Can I have it?"
Aw.
You know.
If I can ask a weird question, and I'm not trying to make anyone else's life harder, is it just whether the ingredient is in it, or whether it was made using a piece of equipment that is also used?
That's commercial.
Well,
Yeah.
it depends on how old the child is and what the doctor says.
Okay.
So when
if
they're
they're
first
that
diagnosed with
sensitive,
an
you can't
allergy,
buy
usually
bake sale
the
stuff anyway.
doctor
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to
recommends
make that
nothing
distinction.
in the same facility.
Right.
Okay.
So
Okay, I just wanna say, I'm not gonna be around on Saturday, so I don't want you to think I'm shirking.
I can't either. We have
The
the Brits, believe it or not, on
For Joanne's yard sale. The music is the 24th.
Okay, Grant,
Denise.
Denise,
Gynecologist is doing it.
Grant,
I still have to stay with
Gynecologist that
Marilyn.
doesn't have to.
okay, library operating, Anne
The
Marie?
mitzvah is dinner,
Love it.
1:30.
Mazel.
We have been Marilyn gave us all the community room policy, and then there were questions about other policies that were referred to in there, and they were provided to everyone. So what we'd like to do is make a motion to accept the community room policy, if everybody's on board with that.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Okay, wait a minute, I didn't write it yet. That was easy.
All those in favor?
It's getting close to 10 o'clock.
No, it's unanimous, correct?
Why did you at your leisure?
Who seconded it?
Well,
Seconded it?
Jack and I did, so
Have a
take one.
choice.
We'll split it.
Yeah,
Jack hasn't done it yet tonight.
Okay, there you
yeah, give it to Jack.
Jack on the
Diane.
go.
Oh.
Ah.
Nice. Well played.
Very good.
How long have you been waiting to say that?
That's what was going on during the finance meeting.
Right. He's been sitting on that.
Ready to rip that card out.
We're working with Mary on the handbook, so we're just waiting to get that back, and then we can do the personnel policy handbook just quickly. That's it.
Okay, public relations, you all must have seen the wonderful article that Terry placed in Photo News. She put a lot of work into it. I thought it was a terrific concept and a terrific coverage that they gave us.
I think the photo news made typos, and I think
Oh,
the
yes.
photo
They always-
news-
That's informative.
They always make it. And then some were highlighted and some weren't.
I don't care about that, but I
Well, the subtext was great.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
That was
horrible.
not
They
checked.
obviously
But,
don't
you know,
spell
that wasn't
check
the last
their
time
photos.
they spelled my name. Good.
But the intent was there, so
Yes.
that's the most important part.
It's press.
Yes.
It's
Exactly.
It's all good.
Yeah, there were,
Even if they're talking about the typos, at least they're talking about it.
exactly, that's right.
Point made.
It was positive.
Yes.
Right.
Very positive.
Yeah.
Terry also wanted me to mention that she's working with Alex on the PR for the music program. And also, she and Alex are working on PR, excuse me, for the budget vote in the fall. So they're on top of both of those things. And today is her birthday.
Yes.
Oh.
She's in California with her son.
Long-range planning, Donna?
Well, I'm waiting for guidance from
All
Pat.
right.
The long-range plan's already put together.
You'll wait a little longer for guidance, but it will come eventually.
We got 5 years.
I was gonna say it was put together right before it came. So.
Right. We don't have any organization reports of special committees. Old business. We have a very large bill to pay for services rendered by Laura Wong-Pan to the tune of $7,580.
For services rendered over what period?
From April 2nd,
2017?
yes,
Okay.
to April 17th, $7,580.
I was just asking the date specifically.
I thought you said 5,780, it's 7,500.
Yeah, 700.
580, yes.
Wait, from the April 2nd to April 17th of this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you gonna tell us what that was for? Laura Wong Pan?
Yes, we paid $80 for multiple emails between Kathy Demos and trustees regarding the trustee selection process.
Wait,
I'll
is
go
the
for
whole
the
thing about that yet? Does everybody need a line by line?
$600 for a meeting with David Cross and Melanie Turner.
Do we need that level of
We don't
detail
need
is what she's
detail, I'm
asking.
asking.
Oh,
Is it all just about the trustee issue?
No, that was about the union, the second thing she said.
yeah. Draft letter to trustees with report from union meeting and recommendations, $200. The professional services, previous balance, okay, the previous balance was $5,820.
So this
Is only $1,760.
So the previous balance of 5,000 figure was from 2016, 2015?
Probably from the beginning of
Of the
the
year.
year, yeah.
Beginning of 2017.
Do you
Well, just
remember?
for March.
Just from
Because we
March?
paid
March?
January and February.
That's a bill for 1 month for March.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
why-
because a lot of, first of all, I think almost $1,000 was spent on the Narcan issue. And then, all that time spent with the RCLS going to meetings and conference calls about the Board of Regents issue, that racked up the bills.
Cost $400 to attend board meetings. So we're stuck with it. We don't have any choice.
Right.
So the
You have
board
to pay for services rendered.
those,
No.
okay,
What was the
I'm not-
question?
those were approved by the board to
No.
go to Laura Wong Pan? I'm just,
At the time, it was,
History.
it was things that needed to be done at the time. It seems to be a bunch of different things.
I think
And
Pat's
it's-
trying to get it
it's-
approved now.
Right.
We're just presenting it now for approval.
I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah.
We have to pay it.
Bill.
We have to pay it.
Gotta get paid.
So,
I make a motion to pay the bill.
so wait a minute, as a person on the board, I can just go out and consult an attorney and then the
No,
board has
it
to
was-
pay.
it was-
No,
and I
because
leave.
we've got new board minutes.
We
New board-
can't do it going
board
forward.
bylaws.
Bylaws. This wasn't a particular one person. This was issues that were happening
Have
over
we
that
put-
amount of time.
Have we put in place the new policies regarding, because I've been at the last meeting,
Outside legal services?
outside legal services and
No.
when it is
No.
appropriate?
No.
At that time, it was only, in the past,
Oh.
it was only supposed, the only people that were supposed to consult the attorney would have been the president and whoever like, it might have been a secretary, another executive person, so there was a cross-reference. But it wasn't supposed to be that I could call or you could call or,
That is.
It was supposed to be for that and also,
But going forward,
Oh,
do we
yeah.
have a plan in place?
that was
No,
the plan,
no.
unless you change it.
No.
That's the plan, unless
It's
you
the
change
plan.
it.
It's just
This-
the president
This is
and
not
another
going to
trustee.
happen again.
Which committee would be in charge of that?
Library operating.
library
because
operating,
we
that's the one that
handle
handles
policies.
policies. Right.
So we're gonna have to create that policy.
Yes, we are.
Policy on,
Unless that's considered a financial policy.
I think the payment of it would be financial.
Financial,
Right.
but
It-
it's
it-
operating.
Yeah, it's both. It's finance and library operating.
Okay, well, we can meet together when we're talking
That's
special committees.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
Don't forget Charlie.
Just don't, make sure it's not Rosh Hashanah, I'll be busy.
So will I at the finance meeting.
All right, so
My
Barbara
list is
made
that.
a motion
next
to
day
pass it. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
Who seconded me?
Can we hear that again?
Me.
All in favor?
Okay, Bill. I'm not in favor of paying it, but I will because we have to, but I think that's really
Yeah, I agree, I'm not in
We
favor
have
either,
to
but
pay.
how much, what was the total, 7?
That's a lot of money.
$7,580.
Well, we'll just have to ensure it doesn't happen again.
Well, not on my watch.
Is there an option for reluctantly agreeing?
Yes, yes.
My arm went up halfway.
Everybody get one of those.
Okay, I think we've taken care of that. That's old business. Under new business, I'd like to hand out this article. It's from American Libraries, which is a publication of the American Library Association. There should be enough here for the whole
I think we need
board.
one more. And I will group.
There's one here.
All set? It's called Saving Lives in the Stacks, How Libraries Are Handling the Opioid Crisis. And I thought it was important, it's kind of upside down in this way. But we did it in a rush.
It's not really crisis.
We did it in a rush.
Yes.
But I think
Step one.
Oh, wait till he gets past 3. I take
So busy trying to-
responsibility for that mistake.
You blew it,
I'll hand
Marilyn.
this out to everybody, and then they'll spend so much time trying to flip it around that there'll be no time for the drugs.
That's true. There you go.
That's a big problem though. I think Fort Jervis had somebody overdose. in their
Come on, please, they have somebody
Well-
every week.
Yeah.
This is something that I think we should be aware of. This is information about what other libraries are doing. I think the information on needle safety in the library is excellent, and the whole thing, I think, is something that is a board we need to know about. Now, whether Marilyn wants to pass this out to the staff or not is her decision, but I thought that this was important for us to see because it's happening in libraries all over the country. And as they say, libraries are places where people can come and sit. Nobody questions them unless they become obstructive or a nuisance. And they also talk about issues with restrooms and ways you can deal with it if you're having issues, like putting security by the door or some other way to make sure that people are not using the bathroom as a place to shoot up. So this is for you to look at your leisure. Any good and welfare? Barbara
Wait,
has
I
good.
have new business.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ola has that big read that they do, and this year it's the Underground Railroad. And one of the programs, if anyone wants a ticket, you would be we are a participating library. So MFL is on there as a participating library. It's Admit 1, Saturday, September 23rd at 3 at the George F. Baker High School in Tuxedo Park. It's an author talk with the author of this book.
Good.
So if anybody would like a ticket, there they be.
Did anybody read the book?
That's what I was just gonna say.
I read it.
Do we even have, do we have the book?
Oh, sure we do.
We have many copies of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very impressive book. Harrowing in many ways. Harrowing. It just explained what slaves went through, and it's well worth the read. Good and welfare, you have a new grandchild?
We announced that in our last month.
Yes.
What's his name?
His name is Mason Ellis, and apparently Joanne met him today.
Did he come in?
No,
That's a library.
Deborah and Mom took a walk around the lake, and she had to return a book, so she asked Joanne if she'd like to come out and take a peek. So I guess she did.
No pictures, Grandma?
I do have pictures, but they're still, the hospital garb. She's not dressing him up and doing fun.
But the hat didn't fit on.
He has so much hair. So much hair. And
Long, healthy life.
Yeah, it's great. Yes, it's good. Welcome to the grand.
Don't have any friends.
That's right.
Absolutely. We get reading play dates to go.
How did your place in Florida fare? Did you have any trouble down there?
Fine, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. It, interestingly enough, my husband called a neighbor this morning, and he said that when there were storms there, the Indians all went to Venice.
What? Really?
Yeah. He said it was a sacred place, but I wonder if it isn't just the positioning of it too. But yes, we were very fortunate, and it seems like most people that we know were fortunate too.
But mostly now the electricity more so than
It's below Sarasota.
More than half.
Above Naples, above Naples. But we had
We're very
friends.
fortunate.
Yeah, we had friends in Naples who had to evacuate to the arena. And when they came home, their house was fine, but Naples really
It's
got
very
slammed.
scary.
Yeah, Jacksonville is really getting the brunt of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
They really are hurting.
We're not restarting full operations to Florida until we're doing partial operations on Wednesday, and then hoping for full ramp up for Thursday.
I have family in Houston that went through that flood, but thank God all three families didn't have too much damage.
Yeah.
Some people were still.
JetBlue's
Yeah, I
already
know
issued
somebody.
out,
Oh, it was awful there.
out of our private, we self-fund a charity organization within, it's called the JetBlue Crew Member Care Fund, and we've already issued out almost $250,000 grants to families that were affected.
Really?
For our own crew members, so crew member families.
In Texas or Florida or both?
This one just related to Irma.
Yep.
Wow.
So additional funds were allocated for Harvey, but this was just related to Irma. We've already done
It's amazing.
$250,000 out of our own.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
JP Morgan Chase is very similar. They did $1 million in fundraising for Texas, and now they're working on another one for Florida because of what's going on down there. So
they're far behind JJ Watt. He's up to like 22 million.
oh yeah. Well, what it is they basically do contributions from the employees, and then they match up to $1 million. So
yeah, but I couldn't believe seeing that.
Oh, I know. That was.
I was just going to say, I think it's important that people, if they're giving to charities, make sure that the money goes
where
to
you
the
want it.
because Marilyn and I were talking previously, and she was saying with the Red Cross, how much of it goes towards administration.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't go to the people.
Absolutely.
Well, when
So-
we had the one a few years ago, remember we collected diapers and I had them sent down. It
Now
wasn't-
that's okay because the diapers are gonna get there.
That's what we
The
did,
money's
and we
not
had a
back there.
person in Mississippi for that one. It was Katrina, maybe.
Yeah, no,
You helped
yes,
us
it was
thoroughly.
Katrina.
And we were able to get the most expensive part was sending it.
The mail.
So
Sure.
this time we tried to do it where we ordered it through Amazon and had them deliver it.
Yeah, smart, very smart.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
It's actually cheaper to send someone there, have them go to Walmart.
Yeah, right.
Because I remember that was the part I did, and it was very expensive, hundreds of dollars.
Oh,
just to
sure.
ship it.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Before we
That's
close
why
out-
they always say, give the money and let the people
But
use it.
then the money, they take away, like you say.
Yep.
Remember, even going back to September the 11th, how much money went down the drain.
Before we close out for the welfare, I don't know whether it was mentioned last month, but Marilyn's son got married.
Oh no.
I know it was, yes, August 5th.
I have something.
August?
Starting today, all the fines that the library collects is going to the 9/11 Memorial
Oh,
Fund.
nice.
Thank
Yeah.
you. She said I like it.
I wanna make a donation.
And I think, can we do have a moment of silence for 9/11?
Absolutely.
Yes, seeing it starting today from.
From now until Sunday. And people come from all libraries in the system to pay their fine here so that we can collect that money.
That's terrific. That's a
Nice.
great
Yeah.
idea.
Carol does it every year.
They've been doing it since September the 11th,
Yes.
since that year.
Yep, so Mary's asking that we
Yeah,
have
for
a moment of silence.
for people.
Can we have a moment of
Yes, we
silence?
can.
Thank you.
Where is the money being paid? The fine?
It's a scholarship fund for children.
I think it's the
whose parents were
firefighters.
killed.
Yeah.
Firefighters.
Can we have a motion
I make a
to
motion, we
adjourn?
adjourn the meeting.
Do we have a second?
Oh, yeah.
Who said all in
Conflict of
favor?
interest.
Any
We have separate cars, I don't care how long he stays.
Abstentions?
Nope.
Read your lesson after
Good meeting.
Thank you, everybody.
They
Thank you.
is on the table in
Did it
there.
make it?
If you're looking for it.
Yeah, it did. And it's right here?
It's on the table.